So, hello again. I hope you had a pleasant lunch. So, let's answer your questions. With the questions, adjudication versus prosecution within the SEC. One question is, under the SEC rules of procedure, the operating department institutes the formal charge but also issues the decision in the case. How can due process rights of the respondent be upheld in a scenario where the same unit prosecutes and adjudicates? Now, my question here is, when you say operating department, what exactly is the operation we are talking about? Bigyan mo lang siya ng anak na para marinig nila.
Specifically, sir, yung division namin under our department, we monitor capital market entities. So, for example, there's a capital market intermediary, a stock brokerage firm. May nakita kami yung violation. Kami yung mag-charge. So, formal charge asks them to explain kung ano yung violation, their justifications, if any. Then, after they file their answer, yung unit namin magde-decide nung case nila. So, in that case ba, sir, meron bang necessarily violation of their due process rights, considering that both the same unit both prosecuted by way of instituting the formal charge and also adjudicated by way of issuing the decision?
But it's not the same person doing it.
Depende rin, sir.
Kasi, in order to understand this, yung violation ba niya is usually reportorial?
Minsan, sir, reportorial, pero there are also some more substantial violations.
Kasi if it's a reportorial violation, that means you have a notice to explain something that you did not report. That's ministerial function, not prosecution. So basically, ang sinasabi mo doon, you're supposed to report this, you did not report. Please explain why.
Yes, sir. But
And then, if they do not, then you say that you're in violation of this. And non-payment would now force you to elevate the case to some kind of adjudicatory division. Doon nag-adjudicate na kayo. So usually, in reportorial requirements kasi, those are ministerial duties. Not substantive right. Walang substantive right. Now, if it is a substantive right, if that is the case, yung due process rights niya, from a procedural due process perspective, which will take up after my time, kay Professor Agra, it will suffice as long as you give them a chance to answer, and the evidence presented against them is clear, and they have a right to refute, and the decision is clear, and they could appeal it if so desired. So na-maintain mo yung due process right. Although, it could be argued if the same person is the deciding the case, and they are also the one that is asking for example, naging substantive na siya, merong danger dyan of bias. And that bias I would suggest that dapat i-separate yan. It could be in the same department, but it must be different people who one is impartial, the other one would be representing the commission. But remember also that kailangan i-separate niyo kung ano ba 'yon. Kasi kung ministerial yan, okay lang kung ikaw yung mag-decide. No? Kasi pag ministerial yan, sinasabi mo lang, hindi ka nagbigay. Hindi ka namang kinaso sinasabi mo lang, you're non-compliant. And there's consequences to non-compliance which will be triggered. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So next, what is the difference between a formal charge and a show cause order? A show cause order, class, is merely a order to explain. A formal charge is you have already a finding that there is a violation that you put forth before a adjudicator. Kasi pwedeng preliminary to a formal charge ang show cause. Basically, sagutin mo to. So parang, kumbaga sa criminal procedure, binigyan kang complaint affidavit. mag-submit ka ng counter affidavit. Yun ang show cause eh. Pero, pag nag-determine ka na meron ng probable cause or reasonable certainty to convict, then you file a information, which is a formal charge in an administrative proceeding. So magkaiba. Magkaibang stage, magkaibang consequence. Kasi if you ignore a show cause order, that's the time that you can file a formal charge already. Kasi formal charge, they have to answer. Kasi yung show cause sometimes people ignore. At sa totoo lang, people sometimes ignore show cause orders. Not because they are trying to disrespect you, but minsan, they don't know what that means. Kasi I've seen some show cause orders where it was not clear what was being asked to explain. So, dapat, din yun, in order to follow the due process rules, the show cause order must be clear on what you are trying to elicit from the individual or the company. Kasi kung hindi, ano sasagutin ng tao? Actually, hindi lang naman sa court din eh. I remember they would get subpoena, they would send subpoena, but they would not tell you kung which record. Nakalagay, subpoena ducis tecum ad testificandum. Pero hindi nakalagay kung anong record yung sinusubpoena nila. So that's like, sabi namin, well, you have to be clear here. And the court would have to send a clarificatory subpoena. Or, well, syempre, hindi naman natin inaasar ang korte. Nag-a-appear tayo. Tatawagan mo nila yung clerk of court. Sino ba to? No? So, you have to be clear in order for them to be able to comply. What is the best means to ensure separation of prosecution and adjudication functions, considering the interlapping functions within the commission? Well, there's no single best way, just some best practices. Best practices in the sense that lagyan nyo ng marker yung ito adjudication, ito prosecution. Tapos pag may marker yun, alam na ng mga tao nag-handle nun na ito hindi pwede i-communicate. Kasi to be honest, impossible naman to stop talking about certain things in any office, in court, in hospitals, in any board. The thing is, we have to minimize that behavior so that hindi maging institutional. Kasi ang nangyayari dyan, pag naging institutional yan, wala na kayong pakialam. Kukwentuhan na lang kayo over certain things. So usually, the best way is yun nga, ima-mark mo clearly. Ito, tsaka ito, kunyari, dati sa color-coded yung nila eh. Color-coded yung sa SSS nila na ganyan eh. Na pagka-prosecution to, anong kulay yun? Basta sa aming green eh. Kasi kami respondent ng So pag adjudication na yon. So tapos ang mga tao doon, sabi nila, pagka green, hindi pinag-uusapan yan. Para lang clear. How do we maintain the Chinese wall? Yun nga. It's not easy. But really, one of the best ways I've ever heard of this maintaining a Chinese wall is that you must create a continuing training regimen for everybody so that they are reminded of when they should be maintaining that information. Usually, the one that is in charge of that is the data privacy officer of the commission. So DPC would create a series of parang continuing education para maalala mo lang na hindi mo dapat ini-disclose to. No? Kasi ang problema kasi sa sa data privacy commissioner, data privacy person is sometimes lagi lang siyang, ito ang rights of the data subject. Ito ang pwedeng gawin. Hindi lang ganon. You must also help people characterize of certain information of which can be disclosed and which cannot be disclosed. No. Tingnan natin yung next question. Nature and limits of SEC adjudicative power. To what extent can the SEC adjudicate matters which involve extraterritorial issues? Okay. Yung extraterritorial issues, there must be, para pag mag-adjudicate ka ng extraterritorial, general rule, merong third-party complainant. Hindi yan usually motu proprio power. Kasi hindi yan conduct sa loob natin. Kailangan may apektadong Pilipino na magrereklamo sa iyo, that they are affected. That's why you invoke the effects doctrine. Because technically, it wasn't done in our jurisdiction. But it had an effect to a citizen of the Philippines. And according to conflict of law rules, if the effects is, there are two things, no? There is what is known as yung targeting and effects. Yung targeting is the Philippines is the target of the act. So if that is the case, you can do motu proprio. But if it's the effects, then effects is you're not being targeted. Just so happens that a Filipino is affected. And they can file a complaint with the Securities and Exchange Commission. That's the time when you could assume jurisdiction. No? Pero ano pa rin, sabi ko nga sa inyo, yung analysis kung mag-assume ba kayo o hindi is unang-una, meron ba kayong power to enforce this? Meron ba kayong ability to serve summons to that particular corporation and others? Kasi if not, then you can't assume jurisdiction. So yun yan, ginagamit, ang expert dyan, POEA. Kasi marami tayong mga seafarer na extraterritorial yung mga contracts nila. Who has the proper jurisdiction over forex trading and investment? BSP. Bangko Sentral yan, foreign exchange yan eh. Pag kayo nag-assume dyan, magagalit sa iyo si Bobby Figueroa. Pinakikialaman yung BSP. Yung mga bank officer na baka magkasuguran kayo doon. Is due process complied with if the service of summons was sent to the last known registered address of the corporation but it was tagged as return to sender? Ay pagka ganun, return to sender, publication ang kailangan mong gawin. You have to publish para to say na the whole world has been informed about this particular problem. Is substantial compliance on the part of the SEC if served through MC28 or registered email address? Yeah, basta na-receive, I suppose you could. Kasi requirement yun eh. Ang compliance naman natin is they just inform. And if they respond, then better. Kaya nga usually when you ask, could you confirm, nilalagay namin, confirm receipt or confirm upon receipt. Tapos pagka sinagot niya, palang sa rules on electronic summons, pwede na siyang considered na siya as having been served. Kaya nga meron ng e-warrant ngayon eh. Sa police, sa warrant section, ini-email na lang sa kanila. Kaya hindi na Tapos natuloy, pag in-email mo, alam niyo ba yun? Pag in-email mo sa isang warrant section, in-email mo na sa lahat, sa buong Pilipinas. Meron silang protocol that they send all the warrant to every police station. Kaya tuloy, pikon na pikon yung mga yung mga warrant section kasi ang dami-dami nila natatanggap na warrant. Isipin mo lahat ng korte, pag nag-send ka ng warrant of arrest, pag tinanggap niya yung information, warrant na agad yun. So they would usually send it to the warrant section. Does SEC have jurisdiction over persons acting as a corporation? Yung one-person corporation? Is that what you mean? Siyempre, one person, oo. Pero kung ang question mo, de facto corporations, yes, you can still exercise jurisdiction if they are saying that they are a corporation organized under Philippine law. Kasi, that's their, But the problem is, siyempre, when you do that, it's a matter of proof eh. Evidentiary yan that they are actually representing themselves as a corporation. Is there valid service of show cause order if the same was answer ko already. Show cause ganun din. Pwede na rin yun as long as na-receive. Will the notice and hearing requirement be satisfied if you only issue a show cause letter, not verified formal charge, and something of non-verified answer. Submission of non-verified answer. Well, show cause order kasi is basically compliance already with notice and hearing. Yun ang purpose nga nun eh, is to give them opportunity to answer. Yun nga lang, ang problem doon is if it is served properly. Now, if the show cause order is received, complied ka sa notice and hearing rule nun. Kasi nga, binigyan mo na siya ng pagkakataon sumagot. Yun lang naman usually yun eh. Bigyan mo siya ng pagkakataon sumagot, tapos may jurisdiction ka, tapos meron kang decision na base sa ebidensya, tapos binibigyan mo siya ng kopya ng decision mo. That's it. That's in a nutshell. Is proof of compliance with the CDO required before a motion to lift be acted upon? Yung cease and desist order, teka ba, ba't mo ililift or hindi ko maintindihan yung context ng question na to. Proof of compliance. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan mo i-prove na nag-comply ka with the cease and desist order before you lift a cease and desist order. It depends kung sino nag-issue. The Supreme Court issues a motion to lift, you comply, period. Unless you want to go to jail. Minsan, Supreme Court minsan would not take kindly for agencies na, lalo na if yung mga orders ng court kasi, they don't like it if you don't follow, regardless of who you are. And yun nga yung TRO na never nag-end pagka sila nagbigay, walang ano. So, but if it's not the Supreme Court, I would gather that there needs to be substantial compliance first, because what would you lift if there is no compliance? Where will be the designated posting area of the cease and desist if the subject entity has physical office or no physical office? Pag physical office, edi sa physical office. Pag no physical office, that's problematic. I am not quite sure. Maybe you have to post that on the newspaper of general circulation. So parang it will serve as notice to the world that a cease and desist order has already been issued. In the Compliance Monitoring Division of the CRMD, when a corporation fails to comply with the submission of reportorial requirements, the CMD issues a notice of deficiencies, which directs or requires the corporation to comply. Failure may result to revocation. What is this one? Ministerial to. Kasi, ano lang yun, reportorial requirements eh. Di ba pag nag-submit ka ng pag meron kang parang fini-fill up na that you will abide by the rules of the Securities and Exchange Commission when you file your creation of the entity. And one of the rules is to file your compliances. And there is a memorandum circular that says that non-compliance will create revocation of your corporate entity after a certain number of years. 5 years ba? Hindi ko matandaan kung ilang taon yung non-compliance. So, hindi ka nag-submit ng AFS. Of course, subject to the payment of the fine. No? Diba? Pang 5,000 per year or something. Can the Department of the SEC exercise all three powers all at the same time? Yes. Pwede. Magkakaiba naman yung functions na yun. Kung ministerial, taga-receive ka ng mga documents. Pero ikaw rin yung gumagawa ng rules on how the documents are to be submitted. And then you adjudicate issues of non-compliance. Yeah, you can actually do all three. Can you disregard our ministerial function when the matter is clearly beyond the scope of the Commission's jurisdiction? Hindi siya, pag sinabi kasing ministerial function, usually that is a function that is imbued to you by law. So, walang issue of jurisdiction pag ministerial function. In fact, ang kalalabasan nun, if you ignore your ministerial function, they will file a mandamus on you that will compel you to do the ministerial action. Kasi nga, wala ka namang kailangan i-exercise na discretion doon eh. So that means, tatanggapin mo lang o hindi. Whether or not complied siya o hindi, determine mo and then sabihin mo, comply mo this. And then after that, after the person has complied, hindi mo pwede sabihin kung ministerial lang yung function mo na no, hindi ka pa rin complied. That's why one of the problems, not with your agency but with the Food and Drug Administration, is this. They would sometimes issue a notice of deficiencies when you apply for investigational new drug applications. So pagka nagbigay ka na ng notice of deficiencies, they are bound to issue a parang notice of registration. No, as long as you comply. Hindi sila pwede. When they don't, they get into trouble because you have already complied with what you wrote. So ang sabi nga, dapat, kapag may sinulat kayong notice of deficiencies, handaan niyo yung panindigan, yung notice of deficiencies na yon. Na ito lang ang kailangan mo, pag nagawa mo na to, bibigay ko yan. O tatanggapin ko yan. Otherwise, mamamandamos kayo. No? Okay, so that's the last. Well, andyan na rin naman yung next lecturer nyo. So okay, so thank you for listening and good luck for the rest of your training.